Good evening. Excellent. We have managed to go live. So let me just share this so that I know that that's working. Oops, correct the spelling mistake. There we are. And we'll wait and see if someone could just let me know that they can hear me okay as I can sort that out. Good evening, Elizabeth. Welcome, my darling. Thank you very much. Hello, Sheila. Welcome. There we are. So we're just a little bit ahead of 6 o'clock. Hi, Isabella. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. We're going to have a good project. Hello, Esther. Thank you very much, Sheila. That's much appreciated. As you know, technology and me are not the best of friends, and sometimes things go amiss. Good evening, Teresa. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. So we have a little project. The sun is currently out. It's been chucking it down intermittently all the day with great big hailstones. There are no clouds around, so let's hope that stays like that. Otherwise, it's going to be just a tad noisy in here because hailstones on a glass roof are often very noisy. Well, let's see if it's going to swap like that. So I'm just going to swap my screens around because you really don't need to see a big mugshot of me. You're far more interested in the project. So great. Let me just move that over there and then hopefully it'll be all right. Hello, Imrina, I think. Hello, Juliana. And good evening, Jan. So let's just move that. I've done my usual amount of prep. Well, some prep anyway. There we are. Let's pop this. Make sure I don't go sending that little lot skedaddling. Oops, onto the bin that's next to me. I'll pop those bits over there, and we can have a start. So I have an oval canvas here. Pentacolor sell these, so if you're access to them, then feel free to order from them. We've got some shadows this evening. Oh, right, what, two different wrappers in that one. Well, that's a waste of plastic, isn't it? That's it. Good evening, Julie. Welcome. Thank you, Carol. Hello, Lamia. How is the beautiful Canada today? I hope all is well. Good evening, Faith. Thank you for joining us this evening. So we've got a make that hopefully isn't going to take too very long. Thank you for tagging Sylvia, Lamia, and Susie. Let's hope that they pick those up and will be able to join us shortly. Thank you, Julie. Much appreciated. It's always helpful, isn't it? Let me just pick up a brush that I'm not too precious about. So as I say, this is just a canvas. It's an oval canvas, and it is probably 10 inches tall. Yeah, for those of that you prefer centimetres, 25 centimetres, so 10 inches, all there around. It's an oval canvas. It just seemed to work for the pieces that I had cast, and that's why we're using it. So I'm just going to add some decoupage varnish and glue in matte to the canvas. I've got a huge shadow. Let me see whether we're going to see the colours nicely. Yeah, we are. So I'm going to leave it and hope that it stays okay. If it's not, I'll put my ring light on, but I think the ring light might just white everything out. And natural light is far nicer if we can get away with it. But if it starts getting dark, please just say it and I will wobble the camera to lean over to put the ring light on that's above me. and see where we go. So I'm not priming my canvas with anything in terms of gesso, because it's already white and it's a pre-primed canvas. But if you prefer to prime them first, then obviously that choice is there. And for this project I would just use a simple white gesso. It doesn't need to be anything more complicated or fancy than that. As I say, it's an optional area. So this is just a Stamperia rice paper from a good few collections ago. Is lined, so let's hope that I've got that on reasonably straight, and then let's just try and brush out that line. There we are. And I might need to add a little bit more glue around the edges, but let's see. So starting in the middle, I'm going to work out towards the sides. Hopefully that will lift out any air bubbles so that we don't have those, and then I can go back to my normal pushing in one direction, which is what I always prefer when I'm doing things like that. This, so we're not going to be adding antiquing stuff to this. I'm wanting a light and bright summery project to help with that, but I'm going to make sure that my rice paper is properly sealed, and the scraps off the live I will add in around the edges. So there we are. I'm going to give this a dry, and we're going to add some we will be adding some crackle. So we'll just need to do bits in stages today. So, but I'm going to need to take the edges off this rice paper. So hopefully that is now all stuck down, and we'll pop that in. Hello Bev, welcome. Who else has joined us? But is Maria has joined us? Thank you very much. There we are. Let's just pop that in there and grab a heat gun and give this a little bit of a blast dry. There we are. So we've got a good number of people online watching us this evening. It's always a joy to have an audience, I have to say. It's nice to feel that you're not on your own when you're making a project that you've prepared. So whilst this is dry, does anyone want to tell me how the weather has been wherever they are? Hello Patricia, welcome. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going to have another project to hang in my house or to put on the side, and it's just part of life, isn't it, when you're a crafter? Hello Katerina, welcome my darling. Thank you so much for joining me. I haven't seen you online for a wee bit, so it is lovely to see you joining me. How is the beautiful Greece today? I hope that it is a nice day out there and that you're enjoying some early summer sunshine. Hello Sarah, welcome. So I just put some Stamperia rice paper onto an oval canvas with some decoupage varnish and glue mat, and I'm going to dry this thoroughly because I want to trim off the edges, and I can't do that whilst this is wet. So that's the purpose. Now rice paper comes from one of the romantic journal collections from Stamperia from quite a while ago, and I picked it because it has a very neutral background, reminiscent perhaps of a collage, or maybe layers of paper that have been peeling over time, and a little bits of a floral element. So, but nonetheless, quite a neutral background. But I just felt that it would showcase the next steps, or the moulded pieces that I want to use very well. Now, the centre of this can dry whilst we're doing some more bits, but I do need the edges to be properly dry before I can go near these with with some sandpaper to lift this down. So let's just carry on. It's still, I can feel it's just a bit tacky at the moment. I can't hear Katerina, I will turn the heat gun off shortly. I just need to get this dry. I've had 2 very quiet heat guns and they've both ended up smoking and failing. And yeah, they're from a well-known company and I've refused to buy another one. So I have this, which I get, and I have got it on its quieter setting. It has to be said. Yeah, because it's a 2-set one, but let's just get this dry and then we can stop the noise. Sunny but cold wind. Yes, the wind has been incredibly biting. We're never happy, are we, really? It is a heat tool, not a dryer. You are correct, Sarah. But in different parts of the world, they're called different things. So we use what we have. Let's see if that is dry enough, and then Katerina, you'll be able to hopefully hear me a bit better. I could just, we are going to be able to sensibly just pop this round with a bit of luck. There we are. Oh yes, we're dry enough there to do. So, and I could add piece by piece some of this excess rice paper around the sides of my frame, but I've got a slightly different plan, partly because that might just take me a while to do on a live, and whilst I like being here, you really don't need me to be wittering away, pulling pieces of rice paper to bits to then add piecemeal around the edges of the frame. And I could just paint it a contrasting colour and add a trim, but we're going to do something with one of my beloved crackles, because why not? Faith, you're absolutely right. We will indeed be whinging that it's too hot. Too hot, too dry, not enough rain, in spite of the fact that it really has been very rainy in the UK for a long time. Hello, Arkelis. Thank you for joining us from, I think, from the USA. And good afternoon or good evening, Anna, who I think you're in Romania, if I remember that. There we are. We'll get, we're getting there. So we're just going to file off these edges in a up and down motion, not a seesaw. So I am actively lifting my nail file, because that's what I'm using, off and away from my before pulling it back down. And if you don't do that, instead of pushing the paper onto the edge of the canvas, you'll seesaw it and scrabble it off. There we are. So let's pop that out of there for safe use, and then we're going to add some crackle around the outside and pull it into the top. So, oh, she says, I have got another pot. You see, when you can't, oh, well, that's not going to happen, is it? That's not going to happen. That one is going to happen. There we are. We'll pop that on the side and ask Cubby to break that one, but when I'm off air. There we are. So this is the transparent crackle medium, and I like this because you get a nice thick broken crackles with finish lines rather than wide lines, and it was probably the second crackle I fell in love with from Pentacolor, and it comes in 2 parts. So there we are. We're just going to add, and it'll have a variable effect because this is an oval canvas. It's never going to be so easy for the edge to be completely smooth. So I just thought we'd embellish the fact that it wasn't going to be completely smooth by adding some crackle to it. Because, oh, sorry ladies, that's because I have my camera set low so that you can have a good view of, you know, a reasonable sized view of the project rather than lots that are not. There we are, and I can pop that around there, and I think I've now got all around there. And then I am just literally going to flick this into the edges of my canvas. I don't want it to be everywhere. There we are. I'm going for a mixed look, so it doesn't really matter if I don't get all areas. There we are. And some of them go in further. That's also fine because I will be able to see where I've done this. There we are. There we are. Let's just add a little bit more into some of those areas. So we'll pop the lid back on that. Good evening, Blanche. Hello, Sophie. Welcome to the live this evening. Now then, whatever way I go, I'm going to have to do some heating. There is no question about it. So let's just get it out the way and done with. And I can get the crackle on, and that can start to dry on its own. It is a very nice rice paper, Sophie. It is a Sampieria rice paper from some time ago. And of course, I can't now pick this up because I've got paste on the side. And I don't really want that bit of mess on there. So let me just take that off. We'll give this a goodly waft dry while we're doing it. And yeah, we'll get there. We will. This has to be done. Yeah. Hello, Judith. Welcome. Good evening, Rena. Thank you for joining me, my darling. Much appreciated. For those of you that haven't watched my live recently, Penta have asked for me that I do a live every Tuesday. There might be some exceptions, like when I'm on holiday, or if they've got new products to launch and they want me to do a second live, another live at another time that week. But generally, I am going to be live with some form of mixed media-ish project. There we are. We can now get that up, and the heat can go through. Most Tuesdays going forward. There we are. So let's just carry on and do that. So that's helpful. So it'll always be for me 6 o'clock in the UK. So that's 7 p.m. in most of Europe, I think, or a big chunk of Europe. And then various times across the US, depending on which time zone you're in. And I'm sorry, I can't remember all of them. Somewhere between 4 hours ahead behind me and 7 hours, depending on where you are. So East Coast 4 hours, and West Coast and Pacific will be 7 hours behind me. So not too an ungodly hour. To happen. Where the primer is on thicker, as if it's taking a bit longer to dry, and I've still got an area at the top that needs to dry. I can see that there's a blob here that needs to dry, but there we are. It'll help smooth out some of the edges, and it's not too disastrous ultimately if you move it about. Some areas may or may not crackle, and for a shabby look that's not such a big problem. The piece on the top, however, is. Hello Carol, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's lovely to see everyone. This is and we will just carry on quite happily. So the lovely Blanca from Mexico has a live later on this week. So for those of you that are Spanish speakers, it might be a chance for you to recap your Spanish. But Blanche also speaks very good English, so that's always a positive. So 2 lives in English this week on the Pentacolor page. We're getting there. I still where it's run down the sides, it's still a bit wet. We'll get there. Well, if Beverly's struggling to use the crackle, my darling, then she can always message me privately. I'm more than happy to help. There are so many different crackle variations that sometimes it's difficult to remember which one goes with which product and which one requires 2 layers and which one doesn't. So more than happy to help if people are struggling. Right. Well, that will work. It's maybe not fully dry in those areas, but it's going to be dry enough for what I need to do. So the transparent caracal gel is just that. It's a bit like the texture of heavy body gel, except that it isn't heavy body gel. So it's got a nice consistency, so I can add it around the sides, which is what I want to do, because I can add crackle to the edges. Then it won't necessarily be even. It's not the look I'm going for. I'm just gonna have, yeah, it's gonna help, and then I can pull it in off the edges and hopefully then lift it down onto a flat surface. So as you know, I literally just pulled in from the side the primer. So there we are. Let's just take some of that excess off. I know I put it around every bit of the edges, so there we are. We don't have to be thick. We'll just literally vary the thickness. There's an area that I need to pull some in, so we're going to get some little details. Let me just, I can see some bits where I've missed it at the side. I apologise for hitting the camera then. There we are. So we're going to keep the centre of that relatively unimpeded. And hopefully not have too thick a layer for drying. And that can then pop down. Let me just pop it on the chair behind me, because then I can pick it up, which will be cool. And that will then start to dry on it. So whilst we do the next bit of this. So let me just wipe that off there so we don't have those being gunked together. I'm putting the metal foil back in place to keep that safe. Don't need that, don't need that. So I have some pots, and they are going to sit like that on my canvas, and I have some grey paint. I had a different pot. There we are. We do have a different pot of grey, and I've got myself a messy mat here. So we've got to have grey pots. I wondered about terracotta pots, but decided that I didn't want terracotta pots, and I don't want them all to be. Let me just pop that back in. So this is vintage grey matte acrylic. You can get it in 20ml pots, and you can get it in 50ml pots. So yeah, if it's a colour that you're not going to use a lot of, then get the 20ml pots, and if you think that you're going to love it and use masses of it, then get the 50ml pots, because that, yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? So this is vintage blue, and it is a blue in spite of the fact that it looks pink, and yeah, there are areas where it's split, but it definitely has a grey undertone. There we are. So we'll pop a little bit of that onto there. Yes, Sophie, I do hate it when paint goes flat. There we are. So we've got those there, and we can pop that there. We'll wipe that so we don't have 25 tons of that. And I also don't wish to contaminate my white with any of the other colours, because I'll get a muddy colour, and that's not what I want. So there we are. So those are the paints we're going to use thus far for this, and we're going to do simple painting. We're going to add some distressing to these. So I'm going to have one pot that is properly grey. Get rid of the lump. There we are. So these pieces are cast from a white resin that I've left to cure. It's a fast set resin, and then I have primed them with bonding primer so that the paint will adhere nicely. These are pale colours. I might need to add a second layer over them, and that is just fine. What we don't want is edges on display, so we'll do that. There we are. But these are from just from a mould that's very difficult to get hold of, but any pot will do. So let's just take some of that blue. I don't want it to be so blue. There we are. So that's given me a nice bluey grey. It's definitely a different colour to that. I didn't want all of my pots to be identical. There we are, because that would be oh so boring, wouldn't it? You know, you might choose to have all your pots in your home the same colour. On the other hand, you might not. There we are. And we'll see if we can manage to end up, without too many painty fingers. And guess what? I've just properly painted my fingers. So that's always clever, isn't it? Always clever. There we are, from that point of view. And let's just then mix myself up. Some of that blue with some of that white. There we are. And I think when you mix those together, you'll definitely see that it's a grey base blue, is that country blue. There we are. So we'll just do that. And I think the key for painting is either mix on your project and not be afraid to change your colours according to the ones you want, to what you want to achieve. So that can go over there. Those can go there. I'm just going to wrap that up whilst while I clean the rest of the paint off my hands. And they can have a little bit of a dry on their own. I'll just move those over there because that's easily done. So we can move those out of the way. And they can sit and dry. I do have another one of those paint palettes, so let's just grab one of those. I'm rather hoping that these will work so we don't end up with such a pickle. Now I need to move that right over there because of where that is. So let's pop that there. So we have some cats. And they're again cast from resin. It is a Pentacolor mould again, and they have been primed with bonding primer, and I'm going to skip painting them with any acrylic, though you could do if you wanted to. And I am going to just put on some Lesueur gel. So these are stains. They are designed to be translucent, and they are also wipeable back. So we're going to have some brownish cats. I did and ah about painting them, and then thought, actually, you know what, we'll have a different technique today. So they're not going to stay a monotone colour, and we might add in some other bits once these are dry. So the joy of the Lesueur gels is that I can wipe them back, and I do this every time I need to have a piece of cloth rather than a wet wipe to do that, because I will lift off less. Let's just cover that. We don't want those on display, any white on display. There we are. Get that all covered, and then I can literally just wipe off the surface details. And there. So I've now got soft tabby. Let's just add a little bit more, wipe it back, so you've got control as to what colour you have your cats and which colour you don't. Want a little bit more colour up on the faces, less well wiped back. There we are. There we are. And we will. So we now have a. Oh, she says pulling over that. So that was the chestnut Lesueur gel, and then we're going to have complete sheet once they're dry, and we'll add in some colours. And this is the pine Lesueur gel. And we're going to do the same with, perhaps we'll put that in under but is for bin, seeing as it's falling apart, and grab another brush, and then we can add the details. So as I say, this is pine, so it's a soft yellowy colour. So I'm rather hoping we're going to have a paler cat. My feeling is it's too yellow, so let me just mix in just a little bit of the brown, and we'll have something that's a little bit more, maybe more cat-like. And there are two cats here. There we are. Let's just mix the colours, so hopefully that will work, and we'll add some more details in a minute anyway. Back in. There we are. Let's just pop those together. There we are. So there we are. So we've got two different colour cats. There. Let me just lid. So those are permanent once they are dry. So that can go there. Let's give this a 30-second wash. It won't take very long for these. Hello, Therese. Welcome. Hello, Carol. No, Sophie, they're Lesueur gels. They're wood stains. so they are semi-transparent, and you can wipe them back when they are wet, and they're permanent once they're dry, and they are protective of wood surfaces. But I quite often use them in the same way as I might an antique gel, because for me that works quite nicely. So let's just make sure those are dry. And then sheet of the month, we've got a black pen. Let's just put the eyes in. If you're going to use a pen for doing this, then obviously just make sure that it's, I say obviously, but maybe it's not, you do need to have your undersurface completely dry. So we've got some little, there we are, and we can, but sometimes a pen is definitely the easiest thing for some of these little details. So we've got one eye on this one, and I can feel the eye on the mould. There we are. And those, but we need to have a little bit of, no, don't put that in the water. There we are, because that wouldn't go down well. So this is raspberry, which is another of the acrylic paints matte, and I'm going to be using that later on anyway. So let's just fish up some of that white. It's way too bright for the inside of the ears as it is. But there we are. So we can soften that right down, and then we'll leave that for painting the next bits along over there, and pick up a tiny brush. So we're just going to add just the little bit of pink into these ears, so that they don't quite look as if they're all the same. Yeah, so painting's not, cats and things is maybe not my forte, and I'm just going to tap, because it's easier, little bit of pink onto the snouts. There we are. Get that off there because I put it on the black, but hey ho. And then we can pop that into there. So we're just adding just a little bit of detail into here. We're going to keep them relatively simple. Let's just tap a little bit of that onto there, and a little bit onto that nose. There we are. So we now have some cats that vaguely look cattish, maybe not, but that's what's going to work to me. Almost semi-oriental, but there we are. They can go over there. So whilst we've got that pink out, oops, she started throwing her bits in there. There we are. Let's just lift these onto here, and so we have some orchids here that we're going to colour. So let's just want that a bit darker than that. Now I could have gone pink orchids, could have gone white orchids with pink highlights, and in the end I decided that I was going to go for pink orchids, and then add some other colours or other mediums to distress them down a little bit. So let's find a brush that looks like it might work better for me for here. So there we are. So the central throats of most orchids are darker in colour than the rest of it. Not entirely, and I'm not going to be botanically correct in my painting, so that's just cool. There we are. She's just as well, because we might be here for an awful long time if we did decide to do that. I'm going to need some more white paint out though. There we are. Definitely will need some more white paint, because I want to soften these as I go. There we are. And this means I can shade out from the centre and have something that is maybe a little bit more semi-realistic. I'm not going for entirely realistic with the look. And I can always add some darker. They're quite textured, are these moulds, so it's quite you won't manage to get the colour in, I think, by dry brushing them afterwards. So I think it's it's definitely, let's just pick up a little bit of that, worth spending a little bit of time to get some of the shading on now. So that you don't have completely flat colours for your orchids. There we are. I might need to go back over that in the centre of that once that first layer is dried, because I'm conscious that I have lost some of the definition of the central part of that orchid, and that's fine. No point in doing it while this is wet, because I'm just going to shift, mix the colours in place. So I might just as well wait and then add it back in. There we are. As we go. And by picking the paints off the palette, I'm colour mixing as I go, and no two brushes have got the same amount of pink or the white in them, and so they will hopefully then blend and merge together, and they will look quite effective once I've done that. There we are. Let's just blend that out. I don't want all white, so there we are. So we've got a bud here, so we'll just be a little bit more careful with the painting of that. I haven't got masses of moulds today, which is maybe a blessing. There we are. You can see that we've got mist colour on the edges. So let me just sort that out whilst the going is good. There we are. I'll add some colour into here. There we are. And then pick some of the paler colour up. And some of that white, so we can soften it right down as we want to. There we are. I didn't particularly want them to be white, because I think there's you can get lots of different coloured, unnatural coloured orchids in the marketplace, can't you, where they've crossbred and mixed them all up. So it's just a question of a little bit of imagination. If you want to be botanically accurate, then obviously just Google orchids and get some colour suggestions from there. That's just a little bit pale over there for my liking, so there we are. Let's just lift that all in together, make sure we've got that corner bit. And there we are. Good. I'm thinking that the pink on the against the the greys are going to look quite pretty. Don't know what you think, but that's my sentiment anyway. There we are. I'm definitely preferring the colours of these than some of the others I've painted on other lives recently. I think this is definitely a nicer, more orchid-like pink. There we are. So, good. From there. Hello, Deirdre. Welcome, my darling. No need to apologise. You know, life gets in the way, doesn't it? That's just part of life. And who else has joined us? No, I'm not aware that my Facebook isn't telling me that lots more people have joined, which is cool. So I don't think I've missed anyone. If I have, I completely apologise, because it's not my intention to offend anyone by missing them. Cool. So we've got some pretty orchids there. I'm just going to wrap that up over there and move those a little bit over there. And let's just have a look back at these pots and see, and give these a bit of a blast, and then see if I need to add an extra layer to them, which is why I didn't throw away those pieces. Yeah, so I can see that if I lift this up towards the camera, you can see it's patchy. Oops, she says throwing at you, that won't do, which is okay. So that was the custom blend, wasn't it? And this one is also patchy. So let me just, I've been giving those a little bit of a blast. Don't put those on your glasses. Let's see what we've got here. So this is that one. So let's just put an extra layer over there. And then we're going to have the, there we are, that brown, that's the grey over there. And then we'll custom mix these. Might need a little bit more vintage grey out. Oh no, I can see some there. Let me just pick some of that. There we are. That will work. We're layering the colours, maybe not identical, but it actually doesn't matter too hugely, does it? Let's just add just a little bit more of that. You can see I've had that pot open for too long. Let me just get rid of that. There we are. Put that over there. Put that over there. That's a better colour. There we are. So we've got that bluey grey mix. And again, it won't matter if it's not entirely even, because pots are meant to have been aged, and these are almost like earthenware, except that I've chosen to paint them, not keep them terracotta coloured. So that can go over there, that can go over there. We will just give these a little bit of a blast. We'll pop those over the way. Give these a little bit more of a blast. Okay, and then we can just sort out the centre of these orchids so that they are a little bit better defined. There we go. And get rid of that white on the edge of that, and the white on the edge of there, and cover that. Okie dokie. Okay, and I can see some not such nice shading there, so let's just pop that in. Pop that into there. give that a little bit of an extra coat whilst the going is good. There we are. Just flicking a little bit extra white in off the edges, just defining the edges of those a little bit better. There we are. Cool. Don't want that white bit in there, so there we are. Right. So, let's just give that a goodly wipe. I'm going to let those dry. I've got in the cat's mould, there are lots of tiny, what look like splodges. They're actually butterfly shapes, and I'm going to paint them really, really simply because there's just no, yeah, I suppose you could spend ages on a one-haired brush, but sometimes you just have to go with it, don't you? Let me just pop that very fine brush in and give it a wash so that I don't destroy that, repoint that. So let's just take some of these little butterflies and we're going to, so this is hellebore blue, I think. I'm fairly sure it's hellebore because it's a bluey purple and I like it a lot. And we can add in some details with said black pen and also with some distressing. There we are. So we can bring out those details. I do have some wax antique pastes out, and I do have some shimmer glazes. There we are. Oops. So let's just pop those. Excuse the mucky mitts, but I don't know anyone who can do mixed media pieces without. And as you know, I'm not precious when it comes to painting. There we are. So those are all there. Right, that can go in there. That can go, that can be wiped. I'm just going to, hello Sue, welcome darling, thank you. So I'm using amazing casting resin, Sue. Pentacolor do a super glass resin. It takes quite a long time to cure, and it's great for resin pours and you know, and for jewelry and things. But it, you know, and you can use it for this. It just takes you adding another layer because you have to put white on top of it. And they also have an ivory resin as well that works quite nicely. But I decided I was going to use my, so this is pine green. Ooh, we won't need anywhere near that. This, I'm using this because this paint's getting quite thick, and that's, so I'm deliberately using that pot to make it. They are very pretty, and they're just going to require some greenery in a minute because you can't have flowers without greenery. And this is olive. So this is a combo that you'll see me use quite often. Orchids typically have very dark green leaves anyway, and I'm wanting to have something that's just maybe a little bit more subtle. Yeah, let's just lift up these small brushes and give them a wipe, and then I can use those again for this and be secure that I'm not going to wreck my nice brushes. So I will start down here and I will do my usual. There we go. We'll pop that back into here. But I don't like, nature's leaves aren't all one colour, are they? So they do need to have a darkness to them because that is the natural colour of the orchids. I'm going to have green stems rather than pick up a pot of brown. There we are. Let's just pop that into there so they can be a bit darker. That's just the edge of the bud I need to get nicely painted. I can always get out the pink paint again, which is why I've left it there. Let me turn this round so I can see the other side of here. And then I can paint in. You see, I've already managed to get green onto that pink flower, which is not what we intended doing, but hey ho, I suspect it won't be the only one. Let's just see if we can wipe it off whilst the going is good. Not bad, not bad, that will do. And we'll just add some dark green into there, dark green into there. And then we can pick up some of our, and just neaten that off at the same time. There we are. I've actually managed to pick up a bit of the blue there, but hey ho, there we are. You see, guaranteed we'll end up with paint where we don't want it. Okay, reasonable, not reasonable. You see, you have to look at your molds from every which direction, because you can guarantee that if you don't, you'll miss something. There we are. Get rid of some of that. And then we're going to have some nice variation in colour. Right, simply, well, whatever type of orchid we think they are. I think they're probably Phalaenopteris, but in terms of their shape, but I could be wrong. There we are. Definitely going to have to tackle that bit. There we are. And this is possibly a mistake, but oh no, we can manage to. We'll just pull some of that green up onto there, but not onto that one. There we are. Don't mind a bit of green on the bud, because, like I say, that is nature's to actually pulls leaf colour into naturally has a leaf colour in the flower, in the buds, and also in the petals. So yeah, you never need to be worried if you do end up with a little bit of the leaf colour coming into buds. Just blend it in, and again you'll get a more natural effect by doing that, which is, yeah, at the end of the day, you just need to make something that's pleasing to your eyes. And we're always, of course, our own worst, biggest critics, aren't we, really? There we are. Pop a little bit of that green up onto there. Get rid of the blue that I've managed to pick up on the on there, because I didn't particularly want that. There we are. Good. And then, so for me, we haven't got masses and masses of moulds. I know that might seem like, yeah, maybe that I'm not telling quite the truth, but as we know, I quite often have 50, 60 moulds out on a piece. Even, yeah, particularly little ones. There we are. Cool. So let's just pull that. Didn't want to pull quite so much into there. So let's just take some of that. That's better. Looks neater. And pull some little bit of that onto there. And just let's neaten that and neaten that V. There we are. That will work. So those can go there. That can go there. Do I want that out? No. Do I want some of the other stuff out? Answer, yes. So let's just pick up some of that. So that's just the white acrylic back on a coarse brush. And I'm just going to add a little bit of dry brushing. Lighten those up a little bit. That's better. I like those better now. Good. So my moulds over here are reasonably dry. So let's just add some dry brush to our moulds. So they look as if they might have been a little bit weathered rather than them all being single. Loved and well worn, shall we say. There we are. Hello, Terry. Welcome. Thank you, darling. So, yeah, well loved pieces. And I've got my brush flat to my piece with almost no paint on it. There we are. It just brings in the details quite nicely. There. Right, so that's the dry brushing done. So that can go over there. That can go there. We can now dispose of that. Pop them safely over there. That can go safely over there. I think they'll be okay. Right, hands wash, because it's difficult, isn't it, Terry? We all have busy lives and we can't all do everything all of the time. It's just not possible. Let's get rid of the multicoloured collection of gubbins and let's just give this a go. Hello, Lynn. Hello, Anya. Welcome, welcome. I didn't see it. Some of you coming in. So this is just a oval frame for those that have joined us, that I have added a piece of rice paper to with decoupage glue and matte, and then around the edges and putting into the surface of the canvas, I've added some transparent crackle medium, and I now need to get it to dry, which it will do. I wanted to minimise, carry on and not have the first hour and a half of it just being this dry and more dry. You can't, I'm afraid, get away without drying time. It's part of making projects, isn't it? There we are. I like it. So watching it a white medium on a white surface that goes clear as it dries cannot be the most interesting set of viewing, so I apologise. I just needs to do it though. There we are. I trust that everyone who who's joined us from the US as well, and that you've got some nice weather. And the problem with doing this is you just need to move your heat source around a bit so that you don't bubble your medium as you go, because the bubbling will add a texture that I don't necessarily want to add into the piece. It's going to be the sides that take a while, because that's where the medium's on thickest. There we are. I think it is cracking. It's always at a risk when you're doing a transparent crackle medium, that you can't necessarily see it working very well until you try and then add something to fill the crackles, and then it's either worked or it hasn't worked. And if it hasn't worked, you appear an idiot. I can see it's worked on the thicker areas that are drying, because I can see those cracking as we go, but the thinner areas is a little bit harder to see. So there we are. To work our way around, probably several times, but hey ho. But it is also serving a useful purpose. It's letting the other pieces that I've got to dry as well. Let me just pop these over here so I can move between them. The sides are not dry, but some of these pieces might be. So orchid leaves have, are generally quite shiny, aren't they? So I have Silky Shine, which is a water-based varnish, and I'm just going to add some of that to the leaves of here to add a little bit of a shine. And it goes on milky, but it will dry clear. But as I say, the orchid leaves are notoriously shiny, so I just wanted to add a little bit more, some texture to the piece. There we are, we can pop that into there. I think I might have picked up some green paint in that one, but hey ho, so let's just add that onto there. There we are, got that. I'm assuming, Terry, you're live again this evening, my darling, at your normal time. Terry goes live and uses lots of Pentacolor products most evenings at 9 o'clock UK time on her page, Terry Lightsy, or in Crafting Chaotix, which is a closed group. But if you want to join, please feel free to invite yourself and answer the questions, and we will happily add you. So just going to pop that onto there, and that can have a good wriggle in there. There we are. Let's just give this all another bit of a blast. Because I can see that I can feel that I've still got areas of here that are not completely dry. So I just need to tackle that. At least I can now pick it up, which is good. So the transparent crackle, if you're not careful, will surface dry so you can touch it, but not go all transparent. And all you need to do, if it does that, is just be patient and wait, and it will dry from the bottom up eventually, and will sort itself out. So don't be worried or afraid of that at all. So those are added a nice shimmer to that. And I did know about whether I was going to use some shimmer glaze, but I think if I pick up the shimmer glaze, I'm going to then promptly cover everything. So I now have some white antique paste, and I want a scrubby small brush that I really don't mind if I cream cracker, because it's solvent based. So there we are. So let's just take this, we're going to pop it onto our butterflies and just wipe it back a little bit. There we are. So that's how, and not pick up all the coloured paints that are on your fingers, because that's what I've just done. So we can add little bits into here, and if you wanted to, you could add some soft touch varnish to the floral elements, if that's what you wanted. So the antique paste here is allowing me to control on white back, so I'm getting a little bit more detail in these pesky little tiny butterflies. I think whatever I do, I'm never going to have these immaculately painted, because for me they're a step too far. But there we are. So that can go there, and that can go there. Are these dry enough? So I'm going to add some antique paste into here. Just need to be slightly careful, because I don't. There we are. We'll pop that into here. We'll fill in those, and then we can wipe it back. So I did all that work. I added all of that shading, and now I've covered it all up. You see, covered it all up. But if I now pop this in, give it a wipe back, I've got the detail back in where I want it, and the recesses are now a nice white colour. I only need to do that really for this one. There we are. We'll add a little bit more white back into there, and then let's just wipe that back. So I can then lift off and bring that, and it just shows the detail in the centre of that mould, I think, a little bit better than it was otherwise. So that is wax, so it'll need to go into a solvent base, and I do happen to have a box of solvent base there. So there we are. So she says, and then because there are brown tones in here, we're just going to pick up a brush and give it a jolly good dry. Get rid of most of the brown that's in it. There we are. Dry that off. So this is the there we are. So where it's very thinly applied, I've got tiny, tiny crackles. Just going to need to be slightly careful on the edges because it's not, the paste itself is not all dry. But so I might just leave doing some of that side until later on. So scrubby brush can go into those and then I can wipe off. So I'm linking the sides of my canvas onto the top. It's actually wiping off reasonably well. There we are. And because I've used the decoupage glue and varnish on here, it's allowing me to just wipe this off. So all of the details that I've added from scrubbling the stuff in, adding that wax, is now coming back out into my project. There we are. I'm going to need to get a clean wipe in a minute. There we are, because sooner or later you start just wiping around stuff. So now you can see that my crackle has worked and I can still see through. There we are. I know that if I don't do the side, it's going to be a headache when I come to for doing it later on tonight, because I won't be able to lift it up until after everything else has dried in place. So the transparent crackle is giving me a beautiful crackled effect and helping to disguise the unevenness caused by the natural canvas onto the edges. There we are. That's not going to matter. Let's just wipe some of that back, and then we can wipe this back. There we are. So we've got a mixture of sizes of crackles. Let me just get a clean piece of that. Carry on wiping that back. There we are. And that can go back in my pot of solvent. So there we are. We have, let us just get out the pot of heavy body gel, which, well, really, woman, what did you not do that for? There we are. I'm so polite about myself, aren't I? There we are. Right, what else have we got? There we are. Oh, there we are. So let's just grab all of our bits and pieces. And we'll not be putting our hand into that, because that wouldn't be prudent. There we are. We can pop those off to the side, and then we can build our composition. There we are. Okay. So we're going to pop that onto there. And when they brought these molds out, they thought about this. And there we are. So those work quite nicely there. We do have some other bits. So one of the things that's in the Stamperia collection are these die cuts. We're just going to give them a little bit of a shape. They are sticky, but hey ho, we're not going to use that. We will add glue on the back because it's going to be easier. Hence the 3 pots and only one area. So that can go there. We'll just smush that around. So we're going to pop that one into there. And we can now tuck that mould. And I always use the matte heavy body gel, but then I'm happy to wipe back up what I don't use. Yeah. That one can now go down because it will show. There we are. And as I say, these come from the ephemera pack, not the die cuts. There we are. So we can lift that up out of the way. There we are. Pop that into there. So that's just adding another addition. There are in the collection some pots. So let's just pop that into there. And then we can tuck our cats to cover that edge. So that can go into there so that we've got those orchids tucked behind. We've got another pot. And I'm going to tuck it behind because it's going to work better for me. That can sit there and those can go there. And that is helping to stabilise that set of cats. So we can now add them neatly onto there. So we've got our cats. Let's just have them sitting straight. Excellent. So we can now pop. Now, if I was going to be selling my pieces, I would put quite a lot more of that onto there and make sure that every bit of it was popped down. But as I am not, I'm putting enough. So that can tuck into there. Because I don't particularly want to spend ages picking it up out for having squashed it into place. There we are. We do actually have another one of those. I can't remember whether I used it or whether I didn't use it, but I'm not liking it, so we're not going to. I did have, though, some butterflies from the die cuts. There we are. And I think that one can sit on there. So let's just shape that. Tuck that as if he's resting on that butterfly. That one can go on there. That one can go into there. And then we've got these pesky little half butterflies that are sided just to make life easy and interesting. So there we are. We can pop those into here. Which way is that one? That is that is sided that way. So that's coming down to land. Let's turn it around the right way so that one can sit onto there. And unusually for me, I'm not going to pop a sentiment onto here because I don't think it needs it. I'm going to pop that into there though, because it just looks like it needs to be a bit fuller. There we are. So we've got the two, one in front of each other. Pop that little butterfly into there. So I've got some bits that are still floating in the air for me. So I'm just going to now tuck in some tiny bits. Did I put any glue on that? You see, I didn't put any glue on that one. You see, there we are. I know I did on the others. So that can go into there. That can go back there. And now we can just poke into there a little bit. Little bit of moss, because that's what you have in pots, isn't it? Little bits of moss. Let me sort that out in a minute. So we'll stick those so that the moss is in, out, hanging over the pots. Let's have an end of a brush so that can sit there. I'll pop that into there. That can go there. That can go into there. Just little bits. And it's these little touches that actually all ultimately come together. So I need a bit more into there. And a bit of that into there. And we'll just stick some of that moss down. As I say, so some of it's in, some of it's out of the pots. I can give it a haircut after the live once it's dried. I can add some little art stones if that's what I choose to do. There we are. That looks better. They're not quite floating. They might look as if they're more intentionally in the pots now. And then let's just add a little bit more into there. Don't you worry, Bee. I hope work has not been too troublesome for you today, and that you've managed to get all that was achieved that needed to be achieved. There we are. Let's just pop some of that onto the top of there so it's not all sitting out. There we are. So we now have our little orchids safely ensconced in their pots. There we are. Let's just pop that over there. I'm not worried about that overhanging, and it's reasonably straight. Let me just have a little mop of that. There we are. I think that's okay. Let's just retilt you. Let's pop that onto there. There we are. It's going to be difficult and not want to settle down, isn't it? There we are. Let's just pop that there, and then let's just leave it alone. There we are. So that is our make for today. I hope you like it. I have a very, very different project planned for next week, and I will give you a little clue. I'm going to be altering a lantern. Thank you, Terry. I like doing collages. So, ladies and gentlemen, if there are any gentlemen watching, I don't think Anthony might have been on, then this is the project for today. I will be live on my own page at 3 o'clock on Sunday. I have a project planned. I will be back for Pentart next week. Don't you worry, Anya, you can only do so many things in this world, and watching everything is just not doable. So I will say goodbye. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your evening, and I will see you online soon. I'll answer that privately